Chapter 35. Some indications useful in the work of overcoming passions and acquiring virtue. Although I have already told you a great deal about the means to use in overcoming passions and acquiring virtues, there remains something else to be said about it. First of all, I say to you, brother, in acquiring virtue, do not follow the example of those who, in the course of the 7 days of the week, arrange their spiritual works in such a way that one should serve one virtue, another virtue, and so on, without taking into consideration whether they stand in need of this or that at the actual moment. No, do not act thus, but take up arms preeminently against the passion which troubles you the most, which has often conquered you, and which is ready to attack you again now. Fight it with your whole strength and strive to establish yourself in the virtue opposed to that passion, using for this purpose all suitable practices and tasks. For as soon as you succeed in this, you will, by this very fact, bring to life all other virtues in yourself, and will be clothed in them as in armor, which will then protect you from all the arrows of passions. By nature, our heart is full of good dispositions, but passions come and stifle them. These passions are not of equal strength in every man, but in one man one passion predominates, in another passion rules over the rest. As soon as you banish the chief passion, all others grow weaker and recede by themselves. When this comes to pass, the good dispositions, freed from their yoke, acquire in you the strength natural to them, and standing at the door of your heart, are always ready to serve you whenever it is required. Secondly, do not allot any definite time for the acquisition of virtues, neither days, nor weeks, months, nor years, saying to yourself, I shall work and then rest, and then, having rested, I will start the same work again. No rest is allowed here. Prepare yourself for continual labor, struggle, and effort, allowing no thought of alleviation, in imitation of St. Paul, who says of himself, I therefore so run, I follow after, if that I may apprehend, I press forward to the mark. To stop for rest on the path of virtue means not to gain new strength, but to dissipate the strength one has acquired, and to become weakened. And this is the same as turning back, or as destroying what was so laboriously built. By stopping, I mean imagining that the virtue is already gained in its perfection, and so paying no attention to its deficiencies and neglecting chances of good actions. Be not like that, but be always watchful and zealous. Do not shut your eyes, do not turn away when you meet with such chances. On the contrary, look out for them and strive towards them. Look upon them with love, all, but especially those which present some difficulties to achieving what is right in them. The straining of our powers to overcome obstacles in right actions brings the habit of virtue more quickly and sends its roots deeper into the heart. Only avoid all you can those occasions which, while they offer a chance to manifest the virtue of chastity, at the same time threaten to set unclean lust on fire in you. It is better not to let this fire come near your members, lest you be scorched and burnt by it. Thirdly, be wise and sensible in undertaking tasks for the body, fast, vigils, physical work, and so on. They are necessary and essential, and do not imagine you can progress in spiritual life without them, but you must be wise in knowing your measure and keeping to it. This measure is a mean between self-pandering indulgence to the flesh and its merciless chastisement, exhausting it utterly without urgent need. Find this mean by experience in an actual deed, instead of by theory, and make gradual progress in your rule, moving from below upwards. Seek, and you shall find. As regards the inner virtues of the soul, such as love of God, renunciation of the world, belittling yourself, turning away from passions and sin, patience and meekness, being at peace with all men, even those who hate and persecute you, and so on. Here, no definite measure is required, and their gradual progress towards perfection determines itself within you. Your business is constantly and zealously to urge yourself to every action demanded by them, and to do it always without delay or dallying. In this lies all your wisdom and strength. Fourthly, acting thus, think with all the power of your thought, wish with all the strength of your desire, and seek with your whole heart one thing only: to overcome the passion you are battling with at that particular moment, which is attacking you now, and to re-establish in its full strength the virtue opposed to it, which is at the present stifled. This one thing should be for you the whole world, all heaven and all earth, and all your treasure and your final aim, in the conviction that by this alone you can worthily serve God. Whether you eat or fast, work or rest, sleep or wake, are at home or away, are occupied with prayer or with the affairs of daily life, let all of it be directed to this one aim, to overcome the passion which has arisen in you, and to re-establish the virtue it has banished. I have already spoken about overcoming your chief passion. Here I speak of the passion which has arisen at the given moment, whether it be the chief one or not. As in visible war, it is sometimes necessary to come to grips with a detachment commanded by the commander-in-chief himself, and at other times with one commanded by an ordinary officer. So it happens in spiritual warfare. The chief passion is not always there. Sometimes it sends its assistants in its place, and frequently one has to deal with them more often than with the chief passion itself. But in such cases, it is no less needful for you to gain victory. Fifthly, be an implacable enemy of all earthly comforts and sensory pleasures, which are born of self-indulgence, and feed it. Through this you will be less often subject to attack not only by carnal, but generally by all passions, for they are all rooted in self-indulgence. When self-indulgence is subdued and cut off, they lose their power, stability, and firmness, since they have no foothold. Do not give way to the thought, I will indulge in one pleasure, taste one enjoyment. Even if it is not sinful in itself, the fact remains that it was admitted only through the pandering to oneself. And during this moment of self-indulgence, all passions will raise their heads and begin to wriggle like squashed worms when the water is poured on them. And it is not surprising if one of them flares up with such force that struggle with it is hard and victory doubtful. So never forget the following words of the Scriptures. He that loveth his life, that is, the self-indulgent man, shall lose it. And he that hateth his life in this world, a man who does not give way to self-indulgence, shall keep it unto life eternal. Therefore, brethren, we are debtors, not to the flesh, to live after the flesh. For if ye live after the flesh, ye shall die. But if ye through the Spirit do mortify the deeds of the body, ye shall live. Sixthly, finally I give you this last advice. It is very useful, or rather absolutely necessary for you, first of all, to begin with a general confession, with all due attention and all the required practices, examinations, and decisions, so that through this your soul should be filled with the firm conviction that you stand in the grace of God, the sole giver of all spiritual gifts, virtues, and victories. Chapter 36, on the order of acquiring virtues. A true warrior of Christ, filled with a wholehearted desire to achieve a fullness of perfection, must set no limits to his efforts to gain success in all things. Yet he must moderate and direct excessive transports of his spiritual zeal by good judgment. Particularly in the beginning, such transports surge up suddenly with great vigor and carry us away with irresistible force. But later they gradually grow weaker and weaker, until they die down altogether, leaving us stranded in the middle of our journey. For not only should external bodily virtues be acquired little by gradually ascending, as by the rungs of a ladder, but in the acquisition of the inner virtues of the soul, one should also observe a definite order and sequence, since only then does our little become much and remain with us forever. For example, in the process of acquiring the inner virtue of patience, it is impossible at once to welcome injustice, injuries, and all other forms of unpleasantness, to seek them and rejoice in them, although it is possible to endure them with patience when they come. For welcoming them and rejoicing in them are the highest degrees of patience, and before you reach them you should traverse the lower degrees, which are humble self-depreciation, in which you consider yourself worthy of every insult, overcoming in yourself impulses of revenge, hatred of the least thought of revenge, and so on. I advise you, besides, do not at once undertake the practice of all virtues, or even a number of them, but become first grounded in one, and thereupon pass to another. In this way, every habit of virtue will take root in your soul with greater ease and firmness. For when you are constantly exercising yourself in one virtue above all others, your memory will be almost entirely occupied by this alone, and your mind, thus welded to the thought of it, will acquire more quickly the skill of finding means and occasions for its practice, while your will cleave to it with greater readiness and desire. All these things help greatly in the work of acquiring habits of virtue, which you will expect in vain if you undertake many virtues at once. On the other hand, since the practice itself of any given virtue remains always the same, it follows from the similarity of this mode of action that it gradually becomes less and less difficult and leads more quickly to another virtue. For one virtue usually stimulates another akin to it, and it helps it by the fact that once it is established in the heart, it predisposes the heart to receive its like by preparing it as it were a seat for it. This calculation of mine is true and reliable, and we know from experience that if a man exercises himself in one virtue well and wholeheartedly, he not only learns in advance by this very fact how to exercise himself in another, but as his experience in the first virtue increases, he stimulates too all other virtues, and makes them grow and strengthen in himself, for they cannot be divided from one another, as all are rays issuing from the same divine light.